The transition from pre-Messiah Judaism to post-Messiah Judaism. The second thing that Jesus here is talking about is not just the transition in the Jewish economy, but the transition in the life of individual people. In individual lives, there is a transition from what you were to what you are becoming. Are we together on that, everyone? Yes or no? And notice what Jesus says. No man having drunk old wine, who is accustomed to the old, rotten, fermented, alcoholic wine. No one who is accustomed to the old wine immediately desires the new. What's the word, everyone? Immediately. So can this man come to appreciate the new? Yes or no? But it doesn't happen, which means it takes, which means it involves a process. Now, hang on to that. Just hang on to that for a bit. We will return to that. So take that idea, put it on a shelf in your mind. Now what I want to do with you is take you through very quick, like this. 3 passages in the writings of Paul. Super quick. Super duper quick. Sort of like racing speed quick. Like that. 3 very well-known passages in Paul. And I want you to see that in each of these well-known passages, these aren't obscure passages. We're not going to Philemon. We're not going to Titus. We're not even going to the Thessalonians. These are like Romans and 2 Corinthians. Okay? Well-known passages. We're going to notice that in each of these passages, there is a single phrase. Not the same phrase, but 3 different phrases that are all communicating something. And I'm going to ask you, because you're good Bible students and I can tell, what do you think this phrase is communicating? Okay, the first one is found in Romans chapter 1. See if you can beat me there. When you get there, say amen. You definitely beat me. Romans chapter 1. Okay, look at that. Romans chapter 1 beginning in verse 16. Now some of us know this verse. Romans chapter 1 verse 16. Paul says, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first and also for the Greek." Can you say amen? Amen. Paul says, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. I can't wait to show up in Rome and to preach the gospel to you that I've been preaching in Ephesus, that I've been preaching in Corinth, that I've been preaching in Galatia. I cannot wait to come and preach the same gospel to you, and I'm not ashamed of this gospel. Which was really pretty radical, because he should have, in a secular sense, in a worldly sense, had a great deal to be ashamed of. After all, his guy, the Messiah, was nailed to a tree. I mean, that's a lot from a worldly perspective to be ashamed of, but Paul believed that Jesus didn't just die, he rose from the dead. Can he say amen? Amen? And so he says, I'm not ashamed. Now look at what he says in verse 17. For in it, in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. Now I want you to take a look at that phrase there. For in it, the righteousness of God, in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith. From what, everyone? Faith to faith. Now, in the Greek here, this is in a sort of continuative sense. We don't really have an equivalent in the English. It's really from faith to faith to faith to faith to faith. It's in this sort of continuative sense. Now, I want to ask you a question. What purpose do you suppose that phrase serves in this verse? In the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith to faith to faith to faith to faith to faith. What do you think he's trying to communicate? What do you think? What might that phrase from faith to faith, what purpose might that phrase serve? Yeah, that's exactly right. To communicate that this transition, this transformation that takes place, involves a process. In other words, it's not one grand leap. Now I'm super Christian. Now I have no more struggles. Now I have arrived. He says, no. When you begin by faith, and then you advance to the next level of faith, to the next level of faith, to the next level of faith. It's always by faith. Can you say amen? Amen. But it's a process. It's from here to here to here to here to here. So for Paul, central to his whole understanding of the gospel was this idea that it happened in a process through time. Now you're in Romans, go to 2 Corinthians chapter 3. That's very easy to find, just 2 books over. 2 Corinthians, I beat you there that time. 2 Corinthians chapter 3. Notice verse 18. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18. Paul says, "But we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord," that is the goodness of God, "are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory, just as by the Spirit of the Lord." Okay, Paul says, we are being changed into the very likeness of God. We are being changed into the very character likeness of Jesus. But then he inserts this phrase. He says, from glory to glory. What's the phrase, everyone? From glory to glory. And here again, it's in the continuative. From glory to glory to glory to glory. What do you think he's communicating here? That it involves a process. Now stay in 2 Corinthians, go to the very next chapter. Chapter 4, look at verse 16. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16. Paul says, therefore we do not lose heart. We don't give up. Even though our outward man is perishing. Let's just pause there for a moment. The outward man is perishing. Okay. What do you think Paul means by the outward man? What do you think he means by that? The outward man is perishing. The outward man is dying. Yeah, the body. That's exactly right. The physical. You nailed it. So he says, the outward man is perishing. Paul did not live a milquetoast, air-conditioned life, the life that many of us live. The life that I live, frankly. Paul was traveling town to town, difficult situation to difficult situation. He was shipwrecked, he was beaten, he was stoned. I mean, Paul had a rough go of it. And so he says, the outward man is perishing. But look at what he says in the very next part of the verse. He says, but the inward man is being renewed. And then he adds this phrase, day by day. The inward man is being what, everyone? Renewed. And what's the root word of renewed? New. It's being made new. How is it being made new, though? Okay, so what were our phrases? Okay, in it the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith. We are all being transformed from glory to glory. And here, the outward man is perishing, but the inward man is being renewed day by day. Question. Each of these three phrases, what's he saying? Faith to faith, day by day, glory to glory. What's he saying? He's saying the same thing Jesus was saying. No man, having drunk old wine, immediately desires the new. He is still persuaded that the old is better. Can the man come to appreciate the new wine? Yes or no? But it doesn't happen, which means it takes, which means it involves a process. Now, surprisingly, perhaps to some of you, but not to me, is that Ellen White agrees with this perfectly, and I'll give you just a single statement, one sentence. You can bear that. In The Faith I Live By, page 116, she says, there is no such thing as instantaneous sanctification. Okay? There is no such thing as instantaneous. What does instantaneous mean? Right now. Immediately. Right now. Okay, what does the word sanctification mean? That's kind of a... Okay, somebody said it actually. To be holy, that's exactly right. It means to be set apart for a holy purpose. And so, is there such a thing as instant lemonade? Is there instant lemonade? Okay. Is there instant iced tea? Okay. Is there instant coffee? Is there instant holiness? Not according to Ellen White. Interesting. Ellen White, Jesus, and Paul are all saying the same thing. Jesus says the man who's accustomed to the old can come to appreciate the new, but it doesn't happen immediately, which means it takes time, which means it involves a process. Paul communicates this very same point in slightly different language. He says faith to faith, glory to glory, day by day. Ellen White says there is no such thing as instantaneous sanctification. But Jesus and Paul and Ellen White are all saying the same thing. This thing takes time. This thing takes what, everyone? Time. Now, with this background in mind, let me just sort of introduce you. I told you I was a punk rocker. I was also a rock climber. Still love to rock climb. And I used to swear really badly. And I want to sort of paint this picture for you, and you tell me if anyone in this tent can relate to this. I'll be interested to see. In my life, I can tell you that there have been certain sins that I struggled with, prior to my conversion, that God just took from me. It's just like they were gone. Like God just, he like erased the hard drive, like Control, Alt, Delete. He just started over. But there have been other sins that have not gone so quickly. Prior to my conversion, I used to swear terrible. Like, even among all of my friends who swore terrible, I was proverbially bad for swearing. I was like, beep, 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 beep. That sounded like a rap video. Beep, 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 beep. And I wanted to stop swearing, not for any moral reasons, not because I was like, oh, I want to stop swearing, I want to be a good person. It had nothing to do with that. I just thought it sounded stupid. And I sort of fancied myself as an intelligent person, and I was studying medicine and at the university, and I wanted to stop swearing because I thought it sounded adolescent and childish, but I couldn't. When I'd stop for like a day or whatever, then I'd be like, beep, 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 beep. It just like was my default condition. It was like my screensaver. Beep, 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 just always would come out. Well, something very interesting happened. After I was converted, I was baptized, as I said, June 6, 1996. I wasn't thinking about swearing, not at all. I went into the waters of baptism, and I was just thinking about Jesus. It never came to my mind, you can't become a Christian, you swear like a sailor. I was like, you guys probably don't know what this is, but when I was growing up, there was this cartoon called The Smurfs. Okay. All right. I don't feel so old now. Either that or I'm so old that now it's become retro. But anyway, I was growing up and he had Papa Smurf and anyway, the girl Smurf, whatever her name was. But the thing, no, don't tell me, I'm trying to forget. The thing interesting about the Smurfs was that they would always use this word Smurf, but it could be like a noun, it could be an adjective, it could be an adverb, it could be like anything. So they'd be like walking, and the Smurfs would be like, hey, how are you doing today? Oh, I'm feeling very Smurfy. And, I'm going to Smurf on down to the garden and get some Smurfs. You were just never quite sure, what Smurf was. And that's how I was with, swear words. It's like an adjective, and it's a noun, and it's a verb. You just throw it in wherever. And it sounds really stupid. It sounds like Smurf. So I wanted to stop. So June 6, 1996, I get into this baptismal tank, and they put me down into this water, and then they bring me back up out of this water. And from that day forward until right now, July 26, 2009, I have sworn a swear word one time. Amen. That's like what? That's like almost 13 years now. Now here's the amazing thing. I didn't even work at it. It's not like I was like, okay, I'm not going to swear anymore. It's just like how I took it from me. And the one time I swore was about 1.5 years after I was converted. And I went out rock climbing with my good friend Greg Parker, and we were bouldering in this place called Mount Baldy. And I was on this boulder called the lily pad, and I was just doing this warm-up problem, just sort of getting the muscles working. And I was up on this problem. I'd done it many times before. It was reasonably high, but it was a pretty easy route. And I grabbed this little rock. This was in the spring. This happens a lot with pegmatite granite. The hold released in my hand. I was maybe 16, 18 feet up. And I grabbed this hold, and I begin to weight it, and then I'm in the air, and I'm holding onto the hold. Oh, all right. And as I'm falling, I look down, and I didn't have my bouldering mat under me. I say, oh, beep. And while I'm in the air long enough to think, I really hope that I don't die. Because I would not want that to be like my last words. Like David Asher, his last words were, I didn't want that. And so I'm in the air, and I'm like, oh, I hope those aren't my last words. And then with my ninja-like skills, I landed. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I don't know what it was. The angels caught me whoa, and they put me down to the ground. The first thing that came to my mind when I landed was, oh, Greg Parker probably heard me. Now, Greg Parker's not a Christian. He's my friend, but he thinks I've lost my mind. In fact, a lot of my friends wouldn't hang around with me anymore because they were like, David Asher's been brainwashed. Don't hang out with David Asher. He's been brainwashed. And I used to say to them, my brain could use a good washing, so you're right. So I run around the edge of the boulder. I'm like, Greg, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that word that I just said. And he's climbing. He's like, what? I'm like, bro, I'm so sorry. I just swore. And this, he knows the old David. And he just looked at me like, you are a complete idiot. What do I care? You've sworn 50 bazillion times before this. But for me, it was huge. I felt like my purity, I'd sort of, I'd lost my swearing virginity. I swore. I just felt like Sully. I felt dirty. And anyway, that was it. I was able to somehow get over it. And now I can tell you the story with the modicum of it only hurts me a little bit to tell the story now. Just kidding, of course. So the point is this. Now, God just took that from me. It was just like it was gone. It was gone. It's like God, he looked down and he said, I like this David guy, but that mouth is foul. Let's just beep, control, alt, delete. And it was gone.